Have you ever stood in line at the grocery store, looked at the person ahead of you loading up their cart with premium cuts of meat and name-brand products, and wondered how they can afford it when you feel like you are barely scraping by? Maybe you drive through your neighborhood and see brand new SUVs in every driveway, renovations happening on every block, and delivery trucks dropping off packages daily. It is so easy to feel like you're the only one falling behind. Like everyone else has cracked some secret code to wealth that you just missed out on. But here's the thing. Appearances are deceiving. The financial reality of the average person is far more precarious than their Instagram feed or their driveway would have you believe. Today, we're going to peel back the curtain on the average bank account to reveal the scary truth about how broke most people actually are. We're going to dig into the raw data on income, debt, savings, and net worth to see exactly where you stand. By the end of this video, you might realize that the average life isn't something to aspire to, but a warning sign to run in the other direction. Let's start with the engine that drives our financial lives, our income. When you look at your paycheck every 2 weeks, it's natural to wonder if you're re-earning what you re-worth, or if you're re-lagging behind the pack. Well, according to recent data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median weekly earnings for full-time workers is right around $1,100. If you stretch that out over a year, the typical worker is bringing in roughly $57,000 to $58,000 annually. That breaks down to about $28 an hour. Now, it's crucial to understand that this is the median for an individual, not a household. Household income often paints a much rosier picture because it combines the earnings of spouses and working dependents. But when we strip it down to the individual level, we see that the vast majority of people are working with a relatively tight budget, especially when you factor in the skyrocketing costs we've all felt over the last few years. So if you're earning more than $60,000 a year as a single person, you're technically doing better than the statistical midpoint of the entire country. However, earning money is only half the battle. The far more terrifying statistic is what people actually get to keep. This brings us to the retirement reality check, which is arguably the most alarming set of numbers we'll look at today. You might assume that because someone has been working for 10 or 20 years, they've built up a substantial nest egg. But the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances reveals a much starker reality. The median retirement account balance for working-age families is shockingly low, hovering around just $65,000. And this figure includes everyone from the 20-year-old just starting out to the 60-year-old on the verge of hanging up their work boots. But here is the real kicker. That number only accounts for the people who actually have retirement accounts. Nearly a quarter of Americans have zero retirement savings. Nothing. If you were to try and retire on $65,000 using the standard 4% safe withdrawal rule, you would be living on roughly $2,600 a year. That's barely enough to cover a couple of months of rent in most cities, let alone a year's worth of living expenses. When you break it down by age, it gets even more concerning. For those under 35, the median balance is often less than $20,000, which is somewhat forgivable given their age. But for the age group of 55 to 64, the people knocking on retirement, the median balance is often less than $100,000. Financial experts generally recommend having at least 8 to 10 times your annual salary saved by that age. Yet the average person has barely saved 2 years' worth of their income. This massive gap between what people need and what they actually have is a ticking time bomb for the average household. For way too many people, personal savings are dangerously low, and they're banking entirely on the government to bail them out in their golden years. This brings us to Social Security. For millions of Americans, this isn't just a safety net. It is the whole plan. The Social Security Administration reports that the average monthly retirement benefit is about $1,800. Now, that might sound like a helpful supplement, but try to imagine living on that as your only source of income. After you pay for Medicare premiums and basic housing, there's almost nothing left for food, transportation, or any kind of leisure. The scary truth is that for a huge portion of the population, Social Security only replaces about 40% of their pre-retirement income. Most financial advisors will tell you that you need about 70 to 80% of your previous income just to maintain your standard of living. So, if you have zero personal savings and are relying strictly on that monthly government check, you're looking at a retirement lifestyle that borders on poverty. And keep in mind that average benefit is just the TAN average. If you spent years working in lower-paying jobs or had gaps in your employment history, your check could be significantly smaller, relying on a system that was designed to be a supplement. Not a sole provider is one of the biggest financial gambles you can take, and sadly, many people are losing that bet. If we think of income as the engine of our financial lives and savings as the fuel, then spending is the rough terrain that eats up all our progress. You might be wondering, if all this money isn't going into savings, where is it all going? The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks consumer spending, and the numbers are pretty revealing. They show that the average household is spending nearly every single dollar they bring in. The average annual spending for a consumer unit often exceeds $65,000 or even $70,000. This suggests that once you factor in taxes, many households are either just breaking even or actually living beyond their means. The truly terrifying part of this spending data is how rigid most of these costs are. Housing alone eats up about 1/3 of the average budget. The typical household spends close to $2,000 a month just to keep a roof over their heads. Then you add in transportation costs, which average over $900 a month thanks to car payments, insurance, and gas. And don't forget about food costs, which have surged recently. When you add it all up, you realize that over 60% of the average person's income is already committed to fixed necessities before they even wake up in the morning. This complete lack of financial margin means that when a surprise expense pops up like a blown car transmission, a sudden medical bill, or a leaky roof, average person doesn't have the cash to handle it. This forces them to turn to debt, which just digs the hole deeper. Now you might think that because so many people are financially fragile, they'd all have terrible credit scores. But this is where the data gets really interesting and a bit contradictory. The average FICO score in the United States is actually quite high, sitting around 715. This is often promoted as a sign of financial health. But let's be clear, a credit score is not a measure of wealth. It's a measure of how good you are at borrowing money and paying it back on schedule. Think about it. You can be completely broke with $0 in the bank and still have an 800 credit score as long as you make your minimum payments on time. On the flip side, you could be a millionaire who pays cash for everything and have no credit score at all. This obsession with maintaining a high credit score often lures people into playing a very dangerous game with debt. People justify taking on massive car loans or signing up for rewards credit cards they do not really need, all in the name of building credit. This high average score masks the underlying instability. It allows people to qualify for more debt than they can actually afford, trapping them in a cycle of payments that prevents them from ever building real, lasting wealth. It's a system designed to keep you a good customer for lenders, not to make you financially independent. Let us pull back the curtain on the American wallet and look at the dark truth most people try to ignore. Consumer debt. Forget what you've heard about good debt. We're talking about the bad stuff, and the average household is drowning in it. According to the latest reports, if you have credit card debt, you likely owe nearly $10,000. That's not just a number. It's a financial anchor. Why? Because of the brutal math of interest rates. With credit card APRs hitting 20, even 25%. That $10,000 balance is costing you $2,000 a year. That's $2,000 just disappearing. It's not buying you anything, not improving your life. It's just ... gone. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a giant hole in it. You might be earning 8% in your 401k. But if you're paying 24% to your credit card company, you are losing money every single day. So, why do we do this? A lot of it comes down to psychology. We're financing our present happiness at the expense of our future security. We buy the clothes, the gadgets, the vacations to project a lifestyle our income just can't support. We pay a premium for the privilege of looking wealthy, while actually becoming poorer with every swipe. This is why we have to look past income and credit scores to the only number that really matters. Your net worth. It's the ultimate financial scorecard. It's what you own minus what you owe. The Federal Reserve's data on this is shocking. Sure, the average net worth is high, but that's because of billionaires. The median net worth, the number for the person right in the middle, is a much more sober $190,000. And it gets worse when you break it down by age. For Americans under 35, the median net worth is less than $40,000. Even for people in their prime earning years, say 45 to 54, it's under $170,000. Now, remember, this number includes their house. Take away the home equity, which you can't exactly spend. The liquid net worth of the average person is practically zero. This means if you lost your job tomorrow, you couldn't survive for long without selling the roof over your head. This is the fragile reality most people are hiding behind a new car and a smiling Instagram post. Real wealth is quiet. It's the money you don't spend. But because we're obsessed with income instead of net worth, we stay on the hamster wheel, earning money just to send it right back out to our creditors. A huge reason our net worth stays so low is our terrible savings rate. The U.S. government tracks this, and it's usually in the mid-single digits, around 5 or 6%. Think about that. For every $100 you earn, you're only keeping about $6 for your future. Let's do the math on that. If you save 6% of your income, it will take you 16 years of work to save up for just 1 year of living expenses. At that rate, how could anyone ever afford to retire? We blame the high cost of living, and yes, inflation is real. But the data shows lifestyle creep is just as much to blame. As soon as we get a raise, we upgrade the car, move to a bigger place, and order more takeout. The promotion doesn't go to our savings, it goes to our spending. The average down payment on a house is over $60,000. The average price of a new car is nearly $50,000. These massive purchases completely wipe out the average person's ability to save. Financial experts all agree you should be saving at least 15 to 20% of your income for a secure future. But the average person is saving less than half of that minimum. That gap between the 6% we're actually saving and the 20% we should be is the difference between a comfortable retirement and working until you literally can't anymore. You hear a lot about retiring early, right? The whole FIRE movement, financial independence. Retire early, it's all over the internet. But let's get real for a second. The average retirement age in the US is about 61 or 62. That might sound okay, but think about it. Life expectancy means you could have another 20 years or even more after you stop working. Now, if you're retiring with the median savings of $65,000 and a Social Security check, those 20 years probably won't be about world travel and relaxing. They'll be about stressing over every single dollar. The really tough part is that many people don't even choose to retire then. They're pushed out of the workforce because of health problems, layoffs, or just plain age discrimination. This is the scary truth. Most people QAN just wait until they reach 70 to get the biggest Social Security payout. Life just happens. They end up leaving their jobs with way too little money and way too much time ahead of them, creating a financial gap that's almost impossible to close. If you want to avoid that future, you simply can't do what the average person does. You can't have an average savings rate, an average amount of debt, and somehow expect an above-average outcome. I know looking at these numbers can feel overwhelming. It's discouraging to see how low the bar is, and yet so many people still struggle to get over it. But here's the good news. This scary truth is only scary if you stay in the crowd. Just by watching this video, you're already taking a step away from being average. You're learning that a big salary doesn't automatically make you wealthy. You're seeing that a high credit score isn't some kind of trophy. And you're realizing that depending on the government for your future is a pretty shaky plan. This knowledge is your power. Think about it. If you just pay off your credit card debt, you're suddenly ahead of millions of other households. If you can boost your savings rate from 6% to 10%, you're already pulling away from the pack. If you invest consistently and resist the temptation to look rich, you will eventually become rich. The average person is broke, stressed out, and not ready for what's coming. But you don't have to be. You can use these statistics not as a reflection of your future, but as a roadmap of what to avoid. So tonight, take a serious look at your own finances. Figure out your net worth. Check your savings rate. Look at your debt. If you're doing better than the numbers we've talked about, pat yourself on the back. You're winning a very tough game. Okay? And if you're falling behind, don't panic. Let this be your wake-up call to change course. The road to financial freedom is built on making the choices the average person won't. If you're ready to stop being average and start building real wealth, I have a whole library of videos on this channel to help you do just that. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next strategy session. And if this reality check was helpful, hit that like button to help spread the message. Your financial future is in your hands, starting right now. Thanks for watching.